we're moving at breakneck speed towards central bank stablecoins, given the events of the last 12, 24 months and so forth. And I think the pandemic may even accelerate that.
Hey there, my name is James Lee. Welcome to my channel 5149, where I talk business, politics, and society. And today we are going to dive into CBDCs. Not to be confused with CBD, worthy topic but different video. Today instead we're going to be talking about central bank digital currencies. Specifically, are we headed down a path of a programmable government-backed digital currency that could potentially restrict our freedoms in exchange for quote-unquote socially beneficial outcomes?
A central bank digital currency, or CBDC, is a digital form of a country's currency operated by the central bank. Similar to cash, the central bank would issue its digital currency to allow people to make everyday transactions.
On one hand, a sovereign digital currency sort of makes sense. Our world is becoming more and more digital, so why not our cash as well, right? Maybe it would even make our lives easier. I don't have to carry around, this fat wallet right here with a bunch of bills and coins and receipts. Just to give a little bit of background, my first foray into the world of digital currencies, crypto, blockchain, things like that, came when I was in business school studying for my MBA at NYU. During my last semester, I took a class called Digital Currency, Blockchains, and the Future of the Financial Services Industry with Professor David Yermak, whose prediction led off this video, by the way. And that was back in spring of 2018. But I knew then that the development arc between new digital technologies like blockchain, decentralized currencies like Bitcoin, and the incumbent financial institutions would eventually collide at some point. And what do I mean by that? This is written in Fortune magazine. Cryptocurrencies are pitched as decentralized alternatives to paper money. This is increasingly a problem for central banks, which could lose control over monetary supply if cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and stablecoins, a type of token that maintain a steadier value, become the norm. So some central banks have decided to create crypto competitors that they control. The value of this central bank controlled digital currency, or CBDC, mirrors the price of its physical equivalent. Control. People seem to crave control, or perhaps more accurately, the groups who currently have control, groups like our financial institutions, giant corporations, governmental agencies, and the like, are fearful of losing that control. So as of right now, there are 9 countries in the process of establishing their own central bank digital currency, with China being the most prominent on the list given its political and economic prominence on the world stage. Now, this is just my opinion, of course, but I personally do not think it's a good idea to create a system that enables just a few individuals or institutions the ability to potentially control and socially engineer behavior at a macro level. So let's take a closer look at a possible, if not probable, future where most, if not all, transactions are facilitated via a CBDC.
你们会用数字人民币不？
Huang Dan just paid with a new type of money at this pharmacy.
可以了，
That's because China's paper cash is going digital.
就是把你的钱包放到了手机里面。
The digital yuan is meant to be faster than using credit or debit cards on digital wallets like Apple Pay. Plus, there are other incentives, like zero transaction fees for merchants, and one day it'll even work offline.
I think it's interesting that proponents of sovereign digital currencies, including the deputy managing director of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, points to benefits like the ability to create a more efficient payment system or enhance financial inclusion, but de-emphasize other aspects like the fact that a government-issued digital dollar would be totally dissimilar to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, because instead of being decentralized by design, it would actually be very centralized.
The digital yuan is meant to be faster than using credit or debit cards on digital wallets like Apple Pay. But one major difference is that the digital yuan is 100% trackable by China's central bank.
The central bank will know who's paying, how much they're paying, when they're paying, where they're paying, and then to analyze the patterns of payment it means that the Chinese government could set up a whole lot of things to have your currency maybe valid or invalid based on its own priorities. This is almost like handing over the keys to your business or to your finance department in some ways, because you really can't control what at the end of the day may happen with the funds that you're holding.
Well, that's China. They're a dictatorship. They're run by the Chinese Communist Party. A country like the US would never, ever do something like that. Would we? Well, in one report about the development of a central bank digital currency published by the Federal Reserve in January, the Fed outlined a few examples of possible design choices for a digital dollar, including that a central bank might limit the amount of CBDC an end user could hold. I have to say that is a little bit ominous, but I want to take a second to address the fact that I do think that some people would push back on the thesis that I'm teeing up, that we should be worried about CBDCs, and argue the other side, that programmable central bank currencies are actually a good thing for society. Quote, in many ways, programmable digital money would be a fantasy come true for economists. This is because economists believe that economies are driven by human behavior, and human behavior is driven by incentives, and all kinds of incentives could be built into digital money. For example, fossil fuel use might be embedded with a higher VAT, a value-added tax surcharge, than green energy use. Buying sugary cereal might create a small debit, whereas buying broccoli creates a small credit, and so on. I get it, right? I talk about incentive structures all the time on this channel, but what I just read there comes awfully close to a kind of social credit score-based society that was fictionalized a few years back in an episode of Black Mirror, kind of cringy, dystopian, sci-fi-like depiction of how we would behave under such a construct. But of course, it's not so sci-fi anymore, as it's currently being piloted in China, a very real-life dystopian type of situation. Now, I'm not saying bad behavior should go unpunished. It's more, how should punishments be enforced, and by who? Jury of your peers? Centralized authoritarian government? On March 9th, the Biden administration released an executive order instructing a long list of federal agencies to study digital assets and to propose numerous reports about their use and proposals to regulate them. But there is an even more important part of the executive order. President Biden has instructed the federal government and the Federal Reserve to lay the groundwork for a potential new U.S. currency, a digital dollar. There are many reasons to believe Biden's plan for a digital dollar involves a design that will give the federal government and/or Federal Reserve control over much of society and the economy. Biden's executive order states that the CBDC and other policies governing digital assets must mitigate climate change and pollution and promote financial inclusion and equity. Now, once again, I want to reiterate, I'm not against doing any of those things. I'm not against combating climate change or promoting financial inclusion and equity. Those are good things. But I do feel like this is one of those situations, again, where centralized agencies and corporate entities are shifting the onus, the responsibility, the blame of something like climate change to the public, pointing fingers at consumer behavior, like the thing like we all need to do our part, yada, yada, while they are out there, they're the ones out there polluting without scrutiny, right? They have more than enough power to do something about those issues if they really cared, you know what I mean? Back to the Hill article, even more stunning, in a 2021 question and answer session about the development of a digital dollar, David Andolfato, a senior vice president and economist in the St. Louis Fed's research division, was asked whether the Fed could assure us, the public, that these digital currencies won't ever be used to tell us when, how, or where our money can be spent. He responded, in life, one can't give absolute assurances of anything, before also suggesting that, quote, the best we can hope for is for Congress to respond to the electorate's concern about privacy. Of course, classic. If only we voted harder, everything would all be good. But no, I do think there could potentially be something more sinister behind all of this, because I hate to admit it, but a central bank digital currency could potentially be more convenient.
For early digital yuan winners like Huang, he says the trial went smoothly, and if the currency does go mainstream, he expects the surveillance aspect will matter less to him.
就是你的便利和被监控的部分，它一定是会被让渡的，因为我觉得我的消费习惯已经被培养了之后，其实我很难 摆脱这样的更便捷的支付方式吧。
Man, we're out here playing checkers and they're playing chess. You see what I'm getting at? An all digital central bank currency does not by itself create this type of social credit surveillance and control that I've been talking about, but it certainly enables that possibility through subtle grooming and conditioning, as you saw with that gentleman in China. There's an old Sun Tzu quote from The Art of War that goes something like, "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle." Ironic that I'm citing a Chinese military general and philosopher, but my point is people will be opting in voluntarily, giving up their financial data to the government just like that, right? Think about it this way. The general population of the United States is, run around like hamsters. People are working multiple jobs. People are living paycheck to paycheck, just trying to make ends meet. That added extra bit of convenience in any aspect of life sounds like a much needed positive relief. So naturally, we may willingly just give up something like our privacy because given the other constraints and pressures of life, it might be the only logical choice that we have. Those are my thoughts on our seemingly inevitable trajectory towards a central bank digital currency, but let me and the rest of our 5149 community know what you think in the comment section below. I want to remind folks that this is not an America Bad channel. It's a let's keep all the good things about America that are great, like having the freedom to go on the internet and publicly critique our government. I'm very thankful for that. So let's continue to have our voices be heard. So if you enjoyed this video and want to support my work, please take a quick second to click on that like button, share this video with other people, and subscribe and hit that notification bell icon so you don't miss any of my future videos. And as always, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next week.